Hey there, I'm Jack Butler, deputy editor of Wall Street Journal's Free Expression. It's been a year since Donald Trump returned to the presidency, and today we're joined by Free Expression columnist Matthew Continetti.
Thanks for having me, Jack.
Let's go right into the questions. So, what is the biggest surprise to you of Donald Trump's first year back as president?
Sure. I think the biggest thing that surprised me about Trump's second term so far is this idea of territorial expansion. You know, I looked up the transcript of his inaugural address, and there's this line here where he says, "The United States will once again consider itself a growing nation, one that increases our wealth, expands our territory, builds our cities, raises our expectations, and carries our flag into new and beautiful horizons." Now, at the time, if you recall, we had heard a little bit from the president in the transition period talking about Greenland, talking about the 51st state, Canada, but not during the campaign. In the 24 campaign, the idea that the second Trump term would be characterized by territorial expansion and the United States carrying its flag into new places what was not a highlight, as I recall, and I covered it pretty closely. But that is what we've been debating, in particular in the past few weeks, the last weeks of this first year in office, whether it was the Operation Absolute Resolve, the extraction and arrest of Nicolas Maduro, which rather than resulting in a expeditious transition to the democratic forces in Venezuela, President Trump has said that he, or the United States, and President Trump will be running Venezuela indefinitely. For a long time, as well as the ongoing debate about Greenland's future and about whether the United States will acquire Greenland somehow, as Trump has said. So this idea that America's borders will expand has been the most surprising thing to me. And I would just also add, not very popular. And so there may be a reason that Trump didn't emphasize it during the campaign, because it does not poll well.
So we should have taken him seriously and literally from that text of the inauguration speech, I guess. Conversely, what is the least surprising thing about Donald Trump's first term to you so far?
Well, I'd say the least surprising thing to me about the second term so far is the retribution campaign. You know, I mean, President Trump made it clear during his years in exile, the 4 years of the Biden presidency, that should he return to office, as he put it to voters, "I will be your retribution." And he made it clear that he would go after what he has described as the enemy within. And it's true that when he was asked about these comments by mainstream media organizations, he often said during the campaign that doing well is the best revenge. And that may be so, but Trump's not taking any chances. And so he's not only pursuing his policy agenda, he is also engaged in lawfare against his political enemies. I don't think it's been a good thing, but it has not surprised me.
So what, in your view, has been Trump's greatest success thus far?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think his greatest success so far has been closing the southern border. You know, Donald Trump was elected, according to the exit polls, for three main reasons. The first was inflation, which I'm sure we'll talk about. The second was immigration and the open southern border. And the third was the desire of the electorate to bring change to Washington. Well, he certainly brought change to Washington. The question was, could he deliver on the policy issues of immigration and inflation? Inflation, of course, there's an asterisk there. People are still not happy with the Trump economy. But on the border and border security, that continues to be one of the few, if not the only, policy area where President Trump is above water. And there's a reason for it, is that Trump essentially took an open southern border with tens of thousands of people crossing, millions added to the United States through that southern border over the course of Biden's presidency. He's closed it. To just think about that difference in the flow of population across the southern border. I think it's been a tremendous success. On the flip side, he also promised a mass deportation campaign. That he was very clear about during the campaign, unlike the territorial expansion bit. And there, too, New York Times has come out and said, according to its research, that He has deported more people in 1 year than Biden did in 4 years. So that, I think, is a record of success, even if we might blanch or even disagree with some of the tactics of that mass deportation campaign. So it's obvious to me the biggest success has been on immigration and the border.
Yeah, but voters can be fickle and sometimes forgetful. And when it comes to issues where you're successful as a president, there's a paradox that arises where your success then obviates the issue or negates the issue, removes it from consideration. So sort of along those lines, what would you say is the biggest failure or the largest looming shortcoming of the Trump administration in its first year thus far? Is it the failure to tame inflation, which you mentioned, or is it something else?
Rather than say that it's a failure to tame inflation, I'd put it slightly differently. You know, the fact is, in this first year of Trump, we've had positive GDP growth, right? And the inflation rate has come down, and interest rates have fallen since Trump took office. The problem is Americans do not seem happy with the economy at all. Part of the reason is, of course, as we know, inflation is cumulative. So if you have years of Biden inflation, including that historic increase in 2022, followed by the moderating so-called inflation, which is still high by recent historical standards, that adds to a pretty large increase in the price level. I think somewhere up to 20% is what I recall over the Biden period. That doesn't go away overnight. And so what Trump needs to focus on is changing perceptions of the economy going into the 2026 midterm election. And the best way to do that, in my view, is to have Americans finally get out of the hole in living standards that Biden put them in. You know, the administration likes to say that over the course of the Biden presidency, Americans lost about $3,000 worth of income. Their standard of living declined by about $3,000. And in the first year of Trump's presidency, we've made up around, I think, $1,500, you could say, about that as an estimate. Well, that still means you have $1,500 left to go, right? So you still need to have an economy where wages are rising faster than the inflation rate. And while that we see some evidence of that in the data, it's still not where it needs to be for people to truly think that their living standards are improving and for them to begin rating Trump highly on the economy in his second term like they did in his first term. They're not doing that now.
So you already mentioned the dramatic difference between how Trump in his second term is dealing with the immigration problem and how Biden in his only term dealt with it. Would you identify any other dramatic or more dramatic differences between those two presidencies than that, or is that the big one?
Oh, they're different in every single way. I mean, just go to how available the president is. Mm-hmm. Take that. You know, there were many days where Biden was not visible to the public in any way. He hardly gave press conferences throughout his 4 years in office. Donald Trump is everywhere. In fact, that could be a hindrance to him in the long run because, you know, Americans like seeing that their president is out and about, but I think they tire of seeing their president every day in every media, whether it's hosting the Kennedy Center Honors or appearing at the NCAA Football National Championship and then giving a White House press conference 12 days later, or rather 12 hours later. President Trump is everywhere. Biden is not. Biden, of course, having been elected in 2020, really kind of appeased or allowed the kind of the woke elements in his party, the progressive left, kind of advocates of DEI and gender ideology, to really control the federal bureaucracy and influence a lot of regulations, a lot of ways in which spending was made, directed. And President Trump has gone above and beyond in trying to get all of those elements out of the federal bureaucracy and focusing again on individual merit as kind of the way in which we evaluate success and deliver benefits to the American people. Foreign policy, completely different. Biden, of course, championed Ukraine and said that we would be with Ukraine for as long as it takes. Donald Trump working the past year to bring that conflict to an end, so far unsuccessfully, and really kind of treating both sides of that conflict equally, which it disturbs many people who believe that Ukraine is the aggrieved party in that war. In the Middle East, President Biden began to separate American policy from Israel as the Hamas-Gaza war dragged on. President Trump got into office, not only showed no daylight between the United States and Israel, leading to the successful ceasefire and hostage release of the living and all but one of the deceased hostages from Gaza to Israel, but also authorized Operation Midnight Hammer, which destroyed the Iranian nuclear program in its entrenched mountain fortress at Fordow. So that was a hugely different approach. And whereas President Biden often was overly solicitous of European opinion and of the European allies, as we can just see from a look at the headlines, Donald Trump definitely is not. There is no way that the two men are similar. And I think that's conscious on President Trump's part. He wants to be the un-Biden. And the only way that I can see them similar, Jack, is that they're both what one person described, I think it was British Prime Minister Gladstone, as an old man in a hurry. And they're both aged presidents who want to accomplish a lot fast. And Biden did that with the Biden agenda in his first 2 years, and now we see Trump doing it with the Trump agenda before he potentially loses one or both chambers of Congress this fall.
So it's easy, as you just did, although you did it quite excellently, I don't wish to sell your accomplishment short, to contrast the Biden and Trump presidencies. Might be a bit more tricky to compare, contrast the Trump presidencies. So how is Trump's second term similar to his first thus far?
Well, it's similar in a few ways. I mean, the first is the emphasis on immigration. That is the through line that runs across the years where Trump has been the central figure in our politics, now a decade. Immigration is always the driving factor, in my view. The polarization is the same. The rise of the resistance left in his first term has been mirrored in his second term. I was thinking over the weekend, it's weird how, in the first term we had the unrest in Minneapolis over George Floyd. Now in the second term we have unrest in Minneapolis again, but it's over ICE and the shooting of Renee Good. In the first term we had Trump at loggerheads with our NATO allies over burden sharing and defense spending and handling Putin and Russia. Now in the second term, we once again have Trump at loggerheads with our allies, except it's over tariffs and it's over Greenland. It's over his desire to take Greenland. So there are similarities. We're arguing over the same topics, but different emphases. Another similarity is Trump's continual push to maximize his power, the power of the presidency. Again, that was apparent in his first term. He often invoked emergency spending. He went around Congress to appoint acting cabinet secretaries. This time, he's pushing the limits in every direction all at once. Also, though, taking his office to kind of a new level. I think in his first term, Trump was somewhat, if you can even imagine this, somewhat uncertain and unfamiliar, and therefore somewhat kind of inhibited. If I know that's a word that we can't believe we're imagining in the same sentence as Donald Trump, but he was moving in different directions and maybe a little bit more slowly because he didn't know the lay of the land. That's not the case in this first term, and I think it's most apparent in the way in which he's not only renovated the office of the presidency, he's renovated the actual Oval Office.
Right.
And not just the Oval Office, he's renovated the White House, and he has knocked down the East Wing, and he has renamed the Kennedy Center and the Institute of Peace and the former Department of Defense into the Department of War, and he's appointed himself the chairman of this International Board of Peace. He is more confident in his abilities to not only reshape the world, but reshape the actual physical environment that he inhabits. And that, I think, is a major difference between the first term and the second.
What's being covered too much in this second term? What's getting too much attention?
Well, Trump. Trump. I think the media is so fixated by the personality and character of Donald Trump, and for good reason, that it kind of absorbs all of the media's energy, just covering him, just his daily routine, what he does, what he's posting on social media, who he's speaking to, how many interviews he's giving, where is he going now. Whereas I think there could be more emphasis on not just the policies, which are various and manifold, and I think effective and having great influence, at least in the short term. But the media is not even covering, I think, some of the charges of corruption as well as it could be, with as much focus as it could be, because it's so caught in its ways of covering kind of the topical and the personal, and then kind of the hot button cultural issues that it likes to focus on. So I think that will change, however, if the Democrats gain control of the House of Representatives or the House and the Senate in the fall, because one thing I can be sure of with the Democratic Congress is that it will move to impeach Donald Trump pretty rapidly, and I think its focus will be on some of these financial dealings that he and his family have had while he's been in office.
So, what has Trump already done, in your view, that's most likely to be part of his legacy and an enduring aspect of the historical record?
Sure. I think his foreign policy is already making waves and will be part of the historical record. I think bombing the Iranian nuclear program was a hugely significant move. It's one that I very much support. I think it was the best decision of his first year. The Iranian nuclear program had been a problem for many American presidents, stretching back to Clinton. So you think Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Trump in his first term, they all had to deal with this program, and they tried various ways, ignoring it, negotiations. None of it really changed Iran's behavior or calculus. So Trump sent the B-2 bomber, and now for the world does not have to worry about an Iranian nuclear breakout anytime soon. That doesn't mean the problem is solved forever, but it does mean, as the Iranian foreign minister acknowledged to Bret Baier on a special report just the other week, that the Iranian nuclear program is in huge disarray. So that, I think, has been a very consequential, on the par of his Supreme Court nominations in his first term, which, of course, is another long-lasting legacy of Trump's first term. He hasn't had the opportunity to select any justices in his second, but I think that is a major factor in the 2026 campaign. Whether Trump, should the opportunity present itself in the next 3 years, should he have the ability to name judges to the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's something Trump has done that won't survive his presidency?
Well, the executive orders. And there's been a lot of them. In fact, there's been a record number of executive orders. The only president who issued more in his first year is FDR. And I think they're similarly consequential figures. But the thing about executive orders is this. You need an executive to maintain them. And of course, with FDR, There wasn't a Republican elected between FDR in 1932 and Dwight Eisenhower in 1952. That's 20 years. There could very well be a Democrat elected in 2028. This is a 50-50 nation. So we know. In fact, we saw it just in my home state of Virginia over the weekend. As soon as a new executive comes in, they reverse all of the executive orders of the prior occupant of the opposing party. So if there isn't a Republican who succeeds Trump in 2029, all of those executive orders will be gone. And I have to say that for those of us who think that securing the southern border is one of Trump's signature achievements in his first year, you got to be worried because a lot of that was simply done through executive action. There have been more resources provided both to border security and to Immigrations and Customs Enforcement by Congress as part of the Working Families Tax Cut bill. But a lot of that in the beginning was simply executive action. So you replace Trump with a progressive president of the Democratic Party, all those executive actions are going to go away.
I got to think also that the various personalistic touches that Trump has left on the presidency, some of which you mentioned, are a prime target if his immediate successor is a Democrat. I highly doubt that.
For sure. For sure. This is why he wants to get his ballroom completed by 2028, because once something is established, it's going to be hard to change. That's why the Arc de Trump that he wants to build across the Potomac River has to get up pretty quickly, or else it will be canceled. I have a feeling too, Jack, that if the Democrat succeeds Trump in 2028, Trump's walk of fame, the walk of presidents that he's created in the kind of the colonnade near the Rose Garden, which features his own commentaries on the various presidencies, those are going to go down as well. But here's the catch. If this is a 50-50 country, so if Trump is succeeded by a Republican, all of that will stay up.
Right.
Not just the executive orders, also the decor. Because as long as Trump is around, no Republican is going to want to do anything that gets a nasty post on social media. So
that's a safe bet, I think. So in closing here, I want to ask sort of a flip-sided question. Two questions, really. One, what is the biggest opportunity for Trump that the first year of his second term has revealed for the next three? What's he been set up to do successfully for the rest of his term?
Well, Trump quite unexpectedly has the opportunity to be an agent and champion of freedom. And he doesn't think about freedom in the same ways as, say, Ronald Reagan did. His foreign policy is not characterized by democracy promotion in the way that George W. Bush's was. But if you think about what's happened in just the past few weeks, we have the American operation in Venezuela, and we have the uprisings in Iran. And if Trump handles those crises successfully, there's the chance that he could leave office with a Venezuela that is under the democratic and consensual control of the opposition forces led by Maria Corina Machado, and in Iran led by a new government, perhaps overseen by Reza Pahlavi, the son of the deposed Shah. It's all a matter of pursuing Trump's tactics of maximum pressure and imposing his will on both of these governments. One government we are now insinuated with, the government in Venezuela, but moving the Chavistas in charge of Venezuela toward more freedom, toward a democratic transition is very important. And in Iran, it means not walking back from any red lines he has set, and following up in his recent post that Iran needs new leadership. Now, does that mean another war with Iran? Not necessarily. What it does mean is using American power to create fissures within the regime, within the Iranian regime, and promoting forces that are delegitimizing the regime from within. I think that's the biggest opportunity on the foreign policy landscape that Trump has.
What is the biggest challenge or risk for Trump that the first year has revealed for the next 3?
Yeah, it's the same risk with Trump, no matter when we're talking about it. The risk with Trump is Trump. Is he going to be too domineering a figure? Is he going to provoke such a backlash? Is he going to overreach that he ends up weakening his own position? And I think we've seen that in the way that he's handled Greenland, for example, where the markets don't like it, the Poles don't like it, that is POLLS, and the Europeans don't like it. And he could have maybe pursued it differently and gotten a better outcome. Now, we don't know what the outcome will be, but so far I don't think it's safe to say it's gone very well for him on Greenland. And it's also the case, I think, domestically. He's trying to do so much in so many different facets of American life. Is he not doing enough to just draw American voters' attention to the fact that he understands not most people are not happy with this economy, and that he's trying to build on the successes he's had so far? I don't really see that happening. And so as a result, the backlash of Trump could happen soon, and it could hinder him in the final 2 years of his presidency. Donald Trump is an extremely polarizing figure. His supporters love him, and his detractors despise him. And what we're seeing right now in these polls and in the special elections that were held throughout 2025 is that, Trump voters, they're happy. They're happy because their guy is in charge. But the Trump opposition, the resistance, they are unhappy, and that means they are motivated. And so the larger Trump looms in American life, the more he's on everyone's televisions and phone screens every day, the angrier he makes the left, and that could cause him some real trouble in the final 2 years of his presidency.